Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Petra again. Today, I have a powerful story for you, a story about the importance of attention. I hope you enjoy it, and let's start. The man who chose what to see. Every morning, something went wrong. He woke up feeling tired, or one of his legs hurt, or he felt a slight back pain. The alarm never rang on time. The coffee spilled. The bus doors closed just as you reached the stop. And on days nothing obvious happened, there was still that familiar weight in his chest, the quiet certainty that something would. He didn't call it bad luck anymore. It felt more personal than that, like life had chosen him as its favorite target. His name was Daniel, 36 years old. Average job, average apartment, an average life, except for one detail. It felt relentlessly hostile. Daniel didn't believe life was unfair in theory. He believed it was unfair to him, and he had evidence, plenty of it. The pattern of his daily life was precise and always the same. Wake up tired, scroll the news, feel worse. Commute surrounded by impatient drivers and crowded sidewalks. Notice every sigh, every shove, every red light that lasted too long. At work, Daniel saw what others missed, the tone in his boss's voice, the co-worker who didn't say good morning, the email that sounded colder than he needed it to be. By lunchtime, he had already collected a dozen silent proofs that the world was against him. By night, he replayed them like highlights. Daniel didn't want to be this way. He remembered being younger, laughing more easily, dreaming without restraint. Somewhere along the way, caution replaced curiosity, expectation replaced hope. Sometimes he had a doubt, and a part of him wondered, is this really how it has to be? But another voice answered faster, this is just how life is. Friends slowly were drifting, not because Daniel was unkind, but because conversations with him felt heavy. Every story ended in frustration. Every joke carried a complaint beneath it. When friends shared good news, Daniel smiled politely while his mind searched for the catch. Enjoy it while it lasts, he would say. He thought he was being realistic, not realizing how demoralizing he was. Others felt he was giving up. There were some warning signs, but they were subtle. Sleepless nights, a constant tension in his shoulders, moments of anger that felt too big for their cause. But Daniel dismissed them. Everyone was tired. Everyone was stressed. This was adulthood, wasn't it? The moment everything changes didn't arrive dramatically. No thunder, no collapse, just a phone call, a short conversation, a company restructure, a role made redundant. Daniel stared at the wall long after the call ended. This time, even he couldn't pretend it was just another inconvenience. Of course, his mind said, of course this would happen to me. But beneath the familiar hunger, another thought surfaced, quieter, almost unwelcome. What if I've been living like this for years? After that, days started blurring. Daniel stopped setting alarms. Meals became whatever was easiest. Time lost its shape. Yet, in the stillness, something strange happened. Without deadlines and routines, there was a space, and in that space, his thoughts grew louder. One afternoon, sitting on a park bench, Daniel noticed something he hadn't planned to notice: sunlight filtering through leaves, a child laughing, a dog tugging excitedly at its leash. Nothing extraordinary, and yet, for a brief moment, he felt lighter. The feeling surprised him. That night, Daniel asked himself a question he had avoided for years. What if nothing outside me changes, but I do? It wasn't hopeful. It wasn't optimistic. It was desperate. The next morning, Daniel tried something unfamiliar. He didn't look for what was wrong. He looked for one thing that wasn't. Just one: the warmth of the shower. It felt insignificant, almost ridiculous, but he noticed it anyway. At the beginning, the practice felt unnatural. His mind resisted. Negative thoughts arrived faster, louder, more convincing. But now Daniel stopped arguing with them. He simply added something else to the picture: a decent cup of coffee, a stranger holding the door, a quiet moment without attention. Slowly, something subtle but powerful began to change. Not his circumstances, but his attention. Daniel realized that his mind had been trained over years to scan for problems. Now he was training it to notice possibilities. The world hadn't transformed, but his filter had. Weeks passed. Daniel still faced rejection, still felt fear, still had doubts, but something fundamental had shifted. His reactions were no longer automatic and didn't define the entire day anymore. He felt more present, more patient, more alive. When something went wrong, he noticed it, and then noticed something else: a solution, a lesson, a possibility. His mind felt quieter, not empty, just less hostile. And in that calm, something unexpected happened. Reality began to respond, not magically, not instantly, but subtly. Daniel started speaking differently, with less bitterness, more curiosity. He listened more. He followed ideas he would have dismissed before. Where he once saw closed doors, he now noticed half open ones. One afternoon, while helping a former coworker without expecting anything in return, a conversation unfolded. Not a pitch, not a promise, just curiosity. A few days later, an email arrived from a company his former coworker was collaborating with. A short-term project, nothing glamorous, but aligned with something Daniel actually enjoyed. Months ago, he would have ignored it. Now he said yes. The work led him to meet other people and later to another conversation. That conversation led to a recommendation, and slowly momentum replaced stagnation. Daniel noticed how opportunity had always required attention, belief, careful observation, and the willingness to act when the moment arrives. He realized that chances rarely announce themselves. They had to be recognized and embraced. Looking back, he realized that the small steps he had taken and the small shifts he had experienced, often unnoticed at the time, were the very ones that had opened doors to unexpected encounters and meaningful conversations. Not luck, just attention. One day, a new job appears. The offer didn't feel like a rescue. It felt like recognition, a role that valued how he thought, not just what he produced. For the first time in years, Daniel didn't feel chosen against. He felt chosen with, and for the very first time. He understood that the world hadn't suddenly become kinder, it simply had become more valuable. In fact, by changing what he focused on, he changed what he responded to. And by changing how he responded, he changed what came next. So Daniel understood something fundamental. The brain becomes efficient at what it practices. If you search for danger, it finds danger. If you search for problems, it finds problems. But if you teach it to notice small positives, it begins to multiply them. Not because life becomes perfect all of a sudden, but because perception becomes powerful. Of course, Daniel didn't become endlessly happy, but he became aware that attention is a choice, and that what you repeatedly focus on becomes the world you live in. The question isn't whether good or bad exists, it's what you are training your mind to see. So, if you train it to notice the good, you will open the door to a happier life.